Hi there, and welcome to Let's Slow Down, a podcast for all of you who feel tired and stressed from this overwhelming world. Here we'll have fun, inspiring conversations about living life on our own terms and explore ways to ease the pace of our modern world, because life really is good when you're relaxed enough to be present for it. I'm your host, Anne-Marie Stolting, and I welcome you to this space where I hope to inspire you to slow down, because life is too short to let it go by in a blur. So take a deep breath, relax, and enjoy the show. Hi, everyone. Today I'm here with Lianne McAughey, host of the podcast, The Spiritual Shiftworker. Hi, Lianne. How are you?
I'm wonderful, Anne-Marie. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for talking to us today. You bring a lot to the table between focusing on spirituality and mindfulness, and also the added piece of shift work. So I'm
Yes.
very interested to kind of hear what your podcast is about and where it all started for you. So you want to get into that a little bit?
Absolutely. Yes, thank you for that. So my podcast, The Spiritual Shift Worker, obviously gives a little bit of an idea. I am a shift worker. I'm a police officer of over 20 years experience in my city here in Ottawa, Ontario. And over the years, it definitely is a little overwhelming having that kind of lifestyle, also raising a family, having a husband, just trying to balance it all. And I definitely experienced some overwhelm. It was actually pre-COVID, to be quite honest, where nothing seemed to going right. And I wasn't overly happy at home, wasn't happy at work, and was trying different things at work, moving positions, and then at one point realized that it wasn't the job, it was actually me. And that's where sort of my journey began in looking for more fulfillment in my life.
How did that feel when you kind of came to terms? Because I've been there. What you're saying has resonated with me because I hit that point too where I was like, wait a minute, I think, the common denominator here is me. I need to make some changes in my life. Once you realize that, how did that feel?
Yeah, it literally, and I know these are maybe some terms that are really out if you're into spirituality or if you're on any kind of self improvement, self development journey, the awakening, as they say, sort of happened. And I had felt it probably back as early as 2010, where I'm like there's got to be something more to just, as they say, working, paying bills, and then, waiting for the end to come. And so when I realized that it was probably me, that's when I really dug in to more awareness and digging into the layers of my own personality, my own beliefs. Why am I feeling this way? What is it that, isn't making me, and I'm saying it in quotes, happy? And then I realized I'm the only one. Like there is no one else on this earth that is responsible for my happiness but me. And I just really dug into meditation. That was sort of in the middle of COVID, where I was so overwhelmed with homeschooling because I am not
Uh-huh.
get all my teacher friends and you, a former educator, like that's not my thing, right? So it was homeschooling, working shift work.
Yeah. I
uh,
mean, everybody, most of the world, they dealt with the homeschool piece, but they were also working from home and you did not have that luxury. So I can't even imagine.
Yeah, and I mean, fortunate enough, I was able to a few days in the whole time actually do work from home, but where my position is, that wasn't really an option. So yeah, struggling to balance it all and still stay sane was to the point where I literally sat down one day and it was silent. And I just sat on my couch in the bedroom and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like there was no sound." And I'm like, this is what it feels like. And that's where I dug into meditation and sort of the whole aspect of living intentionally. And as my saying is, it's like being where my feet are and being not 10 or 20 steps ahead of myself because the joy was I was missing all of it. I was missing the little things, the important things. And I was like, okay, I have to slow down. I'm the only one who can change my mindset. I'm the only one who can have a different outlook. Nobody's going to do it for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. Being where my feet are. That's a really good piece of imagery. I found the same thing with my kids. I was feeling so overwhelmed, and I was home with them for a while and as a stay-at-home mom, and I felt like, yeah, well, I'm physically here, but my mind's in a million other places going a mile a minute, and I'm not being present for them. So what's the point, right? We need to be where our feet are, like mentally and physically.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why the meditation aspect really, really helped me, because it was okay, I'm going to be intentional today and I'm going to sit still, right, for at least 15 to 20 minutes and just deal with all the drama, all the thoughts that continuously run through our heads. I mean, we have something like 90,000 thoughts a day.
It's
And of
insane.
those,
It's insane.
right?
I've read that too. Yep.
Crazy. And of those 90,000 thoughts, I think 90% or 80% of those thoughts are exactly from the day before.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we ever get out of that? And that's where the meditation that I eventually became a certified meditation coach is that you learn to see the patterns in your thinking and see where you're so far ahead or even living in the past, right? We tend to overthink things that we've done or question things that we've said, and it's like you can't change it. And so being aware of how we're thinking is the first key, and knowing the things that trigger us to then dig into the why are we thinking these things. And
Right.
we don't want to overanalyze, but we certainly need to be aware of the things that trigger us. And therefore, when you become aware, that's the biggest thing. You can make the change. Everyone has free will. Everyone has the opportunity every single moment to make a different choice, to make a different decision. And that's what I did for myself. I said, I don't want to live in a state of overwhelm. I also don't want to live in a state of being unfulfilled. And I'm the only one who can change that.
I feel like I could be you're speaking from my mind right now.
Right. And I didn't realize that I thought it was just me, right? Like I thought I'm sure nobody, because nobody wants to share this. Nobody wants to, as they say, air their dirty laundry
Right.
in that they're not happy.
Yep.
And everybody puts on these brave faces, but inside I was like literally dying inside, that I was like, what is going on with my life? This is not the way that I wanted my life to be. And it's like, okay, then do something about it. Then do something about it. And then it's like when you start sharing this with other people, they're like, oh, I feel the same way. Oh, I've been doing the same thing. And you don't realize how many people
Exactly.
are living the same thoughts as you.
And you know what? That connection and just that validation that, okay, I'm not crazy,
Yeah.
and that was honestly my main motivation for starting this podcast, because this is a message that needs to kind of be spoken about more. People shouldn't feel like, oh, I'm the only one. And I felt the same way. I felt like I was living on another planet. And why am I the only one who feels so overwhelmed by all of this? And being outside looking in, my
Mhm.
life, your life is great, right? You have this wonderful family, just a beautiful life, and so many blessings and so many things to be grateful for. That those feelings of like, oh, why do I feel this way? I had to sit with myself and figure it out. Like, yeah, why have I been having these thoughts every single
Mhm.
day?
I feel things are definitely changing, right? I see some friends that are just trudging along doing exactly what their parents did, doing this, and this. It's
Mhm.
like, but why are you doing that? They just go and do things because, well, that's the way it should be. This is
That's
what I
how it
should,
is.
right?
Exactly.
But it's
Yep.
like,
Well, that's what we did. So
right.
that's it. That's how it is. You're going to be tired, and it doesn't
Yes.
have to be that
Oh,
way. And I think that that whole free will and the idea that, hey, I have a choice,
Mhm.
that really hit me too. And honestly, very recently. And here I am, in my early 40s now. Why did it take me so long to realize I have a choice?
Yeah. Because to be honest, I feel that we are so ingrained in, especially where we both live in Canada and the US, of this culture of go, 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 go. And you're not successful if you're not doing X, Y, and Z. And it's like, okay, but wait a minute. Mm, Just because they're doing it, it doesn't feel aligned with me. And that's what I'm trying to get across in my podcast, is that it's okay to shift. It's okay to do something different.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the best part is that when you do it in full alignment with who you really are, being authentic to yourself, that's where you find the happiness. That's where you find the bliss. That's where you get the fulfillment is, that when you can do the things that you want to do that fill you up, all of that joy spills over into everyone else that surrounds you. And I it's like people are like, "Oh, but that's so selfish to do only what you want to do." Yeah,
Hmm.
it might be selfish, but guess what? When I can work out, I can eat well, I meditate, I do something that fills me up, guess who benefits? Every single person around me, because I feel better. I can serve everybody better. I can be a better mom with more patience. I can be a better, wife, to be able to communicate better with my husband. And in my job as a police officer, I have way more communication skills when I am being able to come from a place of truth and being able to deal with the people that I have to deal with on such a different level, and being able to bring everyone else who's around me up rather than my negativity or whatever I had experienced bring everybody back down. That's the biggest thing about being able to be your true authentic self, is that you lift everyone else up around you.
It's truly a win-win because
Yeah.
you get to feel better. And first of all, we're not really very good to anybody if we don't fill our own cup first. It's like the oxygen mask on the plane, right? Put yours on first, take care of
Absolutely.
yourself, then you can take care of everybody else. And we also have to remember that we do deserve to be happy and we matter. We get into this routine of just doing things for everybody else and kind of forget about ourselves a little bit. And it's obviously it's okay and it's encouraged to think of others often, but we
Mhm.
have to think of ourselves. Something that I've learned is, what would you do if your a good friend was in this situation? What advice would you give them, or what would you do for them? And start treating ourselves that same way. I find I'm seem to have a lot more grace and a lot more just gentleness and kindness to others than to myself.
Yeah. And that's because that's something that has, over the years, right, is evolved. But, take a few generations back, that's not the way it was. It was like, you must serve others, you must be think of others, you must, okay, absolutely. Absolutely. Don't be a not nice human. But
Right.
why has it been like for generations where it's like, ignore your feelings in what you want and only serve others? Like, that's a very outdated thinking, where and people, and this may trigger people, right? This conversation
Yeah. Yeah.
is that it is outdated, because if you look around you, I'll probably know the moms or the aunts or the women who have done that and probably have come to the end of their life and have regretted it
Yep.
to some form, right? Not the serving, but certainly that they have not fulfilled what they desired to do.
Sure. And it doesn't have to be either or. It can be and. I think
Absolutely.
that's the new way
Absolutely.
to think of it.
Yeah. And that's where we're finding that. And we were talking before about balance. I don't necessarily adhere to that word, because I feel like if you think of a scale, right, where one side tips and you have to have everything in equals. Different seasons of our lives doesn't allow for that balance per se,
Mhm.
but being able to live in harmony with the shift work for me, right? And then also being able to still have the relationship at home it takes work. It's not always easy, but it's more living in harmony and how you can make that nice music flow with ease. And it takes intention. It doesn't just happen. Everything takes intention. And if you're just winging your life, going, and I say winging, like just literally letting life happen around you,
To you. Yeah.
you will end up with a life that you don't necessarily desire. Right. So you have.
I love that. And I love how you're using the word harmony.
Mhm.
I don't even think I told you, but I'm a musician.
Ah,
And so yes, I want the harmony. I want the harmony for
yeah.
sure. And I think that's a beautiful way to put it because we are going to have different seasons that are busier and more stressful. And so we have to find a way to make it work and we have to be intentional about it. And the stop winging it is so important. I feel like I was winging it for a really, really long time. I didn't even know. I had no idea.
Mhm.
I mean, it's like there's so many things going on that if you don't take that time, and it doesn't have to be a lot of time, but just even a few minutes to be more intentional and just think about, wait, why am I doing this? Or is this still serving me? Or maybe I was doing it last year, but it's
Mhm.
not really right to do it this year for my season of life. So lots of words of wisdom there. So how do you find harmony? So you have so many things going on and between your shift work and having a marriage and running a household.
Mhm.
I know meditation's a big piece for you. What else have you done or what advice could you give to somebody in your shoes to find more harmony?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things, and whether or not, I mean, I'm very fortunate that I have my husband, he's around, like he's here, and we're in a partnership. And so for those that maybe don't have that, it is, you know, important to ask for help. That is the one thing that I struggled with prior to sort of for years. I was like, I have to do everything. I have to do
Uh-huh. I
everything
have
around,
felt the same way. Yep.
right? Right?
Yep.
It's like I do the meals, I do the cleaning, and it's like, okay, wait a minute here. Where did that belief come from that I was the one who had to do it all? Well, obviously, I mean, that's sort of the way it wasn't when I grew up. My mom did all that stuff.
Yep.
So where does it model? That's where it's modeled from. But now I'm like, wait a minute, my husband is quite capable. I'm doing a lot. It's funny because we always joke. He does all the stereotypical guy things, and I do the mom things and the wife things. But that's because that works for us.
Right.
And but it's about communication and asking for help is the first step in finding that harmony. Because if you're constantly doing everything and then resenting that someone isn't helping or not sort of pulling their weight, if you want to put it that way, how are they ever going to know that you want help if you don't ask? Sorry,
Exactly.
but that
Exactly. And that's so toxic to have
thing.
that resentment,
Oh my gosh.
and just stewing in you all the time.
Yeah, right? Like I find and now my kids are getting older to the point where I'm like, okay, you guys can help with the dishes. And they've been doing that.
Exactly.
You guys can help do the laundry. There's so many things now that they're out of those stages where it's like, no, you know what? You're old enough. You are now a part of this household. But finding that harmony in that I don't have to do it all so that when somebody else is doing something that I used to do, I can now go do something else that fills me up a little bit more. And so it brings sort of those, if we want to stay in the theme of the music and the harmony, it's bringing that music back up to sound a little bit better where I'm not talking in a way that is resentful and I'm not yelling at people around the house. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. We can all work and flow around here where it feels good, but asking for help and communicating, it's hard at first, but it really is the key. But I guess before that is the awareness to know that you have to ask for help, right? Knowing that what you're doing, you don't have to do. Now, someone who maybe doesn't have that help, there's always someone willing to help you. Always.
Yep. You just have to get creative. I'm getting better at doing it, but I don't love it. It's definitely something out of my comfort zone. My son was playing a new sport and I found out I didn't know the family super well, but there was a boy that was in his class in his grade doing the same sport. they lived like really, really close to us. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to reach out to that mom and just see, like, hey, maybe we can start carpooling. We're all driving to the same fields every night. And I sent her an email and I felt like I was going on like a blind date or something. I was so nervous. I was nervous to hit send. And she responds almost instantly, like, oh my gosh, would love that. It's
Yeah.
helpful for her too. We're very good friends now. That's
Amazing.
kind of how it started. And so grateful for her because she
Yeah.
has made such a difference to me. And my son loves, it's more fun when you get to ride with a friend anyway.
Yeah.
So especially when you're, you know, an 11-year-old boy.
Yeah.
So
But it's
um
funny, right? Those things where, like you said, you were nervous to send that email because you're afraid of the rejection. We're afraid of being told no. And it's like, if that's the worst thing that could happen, why do we fear that?
yes, I definitely have tried to think that way more these days. Cause yeah,
Yeah.
what's the worst that can happen? She says, oh no, I'm not really interested. Okay. Well, you tried.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where, like you said, right? So doing things, and we do the same thing. We've got like my oldest, his best friend lives literally around the corner. And, if one day this bus doesn't come, somebody drives them in, somebody picks them up because we aren't meant to do this life alone, and having community and having, again, people around that feel the same way. You're never going to know who is going to show up in your life, who is exactly the person that you need, unless you're paying attention, unless you're putting the attention out there, and unless you're asking. Unless you're asking.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
the basis of it.
People can't read our minds, right? So why
No,
did we think they could?
exactly, exactly. So that really is the best piece of advice, right? Like if someone is listening, if who does work shift work, and that's hard on relationships, it's hard on family life, especially if kids are young and they don't see one parent you know, like for me, I work an afternoon shift every other week. And so I don't see my kids sometimes from Monday to Thursday or Friday morning, depending on what's going on. And
Right.
it's harder as they're getting older, but you have to ask for help, and you have to know that also refueling yourself is key. It really is.
Yeah, it so is. And I mean, we talked about this. My husband's also a police officer, so the shift work and that just
Mhm.
the stress of that job really hits home for me and my family because we've gone through the same things. And you do have to remember too, and I try to remind my kids this and myself this because sometimes it is hard. And sometimes me being on the other end of it, I do feel like a single parent at times, not because my husband's not present and awesome and helpful with the kids, but sometimes, like you're saying, you just physically not there for a chunk of time. I have to remember too to tell the kids, well, dad might not be here, today and tomorrow, but he is out there being a hero and helping other people and making such a difference
Yeah.
to the community. And he's really making it count. He's making his life count and he's doing good. So that does come, all these things come with some sacrifice, right? And that's what it is. But I think that you're such an amazing role model for your boys, and especially being a female police officer, it's amazing. I think what you're doing is fantastic, and then showing them how to find that harmony in life at home too. And like you said, just trying to make the time when you are home with them really count, right?
Yeah. That's the biggest thing is that, and I mean, they're still only 8 and 12, but they're 8 and 12 already because we
Right.
know it goes so fast.
We blinked and that
And
happened, right?
yeah, and I'm like, okay, we really like we have great holidays with them, and being fully present. And those are the things that are they're going to remember, but it's not just about the holidays, right? Or the vacations. It really is the everyday, because those are the days that you miss the things, like when the kids
Right.
come in the door and my youngest is always wanting to say something. It's like, okay, dropping everything literally for even 5 minutes is the most precious 5 minutes, and being fully present with them and being able to see the smile on their faces and knowing what they're doing and what's lighting them up is what is where it's at, right? It's you only live in the now, right? You
Yes.
can't be like I used to always be worrying about oh, what are we having for dinner in 5 days? It's like, oh, who cares what we're having?
Exactly.
But now, I mean, I meal plan now. That's a whole different story. But and I have been meal planning for years, but there was times in the seasons where I'd be like, always, like I said, 5 or 10, 20 steps ahead of myself and missing what was happening right in front of me, little things. And it's like, okay, I don't want to miss that stuff anymore.
Yep.
And it takes intention. It takes literally, as we say in police work, it's like get off the train tracks, move yourself and stop living on autopilot to see what you're missing. Because that's where your life is. Your life is right now, right now.
Yep. And, going back to the kids, like coming home from school, that 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes. We can all find 5 minutes, and that means the world to them. And I think especially nowadays, I mean, there's a lot going on at school every day. Who knows what they've come across in their day or what maybe stressed them out or what happened, good or bad. But just to know that they can come home and, oh, my mom's home today, I can talk to her for a few minutes. And just to know that they have that safe place to come home and have somebody that cares about what they're going to say
Mhm.
is going to shape who they are.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I mean, policing is a whole other culture. And it definitely, I've seen through my years of, friends and coworkers who had kids that just haven't gone the right route because of, and it happens in other careers. I'm not saying it's
Sure,
just
sure.
policing, but certainly when you're not home and attentive and not letting your own issues and your own stressors impact them, right? Because we're all energy. We can all feed off each other, or we can give energy in a good or a negative way to other people. And being able to say, okay, I'm dealing with my own stuff. I am now going to be present and be fully energized and take the energy that good energy, and it's going to inspire me more, or I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to provide my energy and in this conversation, in this moment with those kids, and that they know that I'm here fully, not just physically,
Right.
but
Right.
present with everything, and being able, like you said, 5 minutes sometimes that's all my kids want is 5 minutes.
Exactly.
I want to go do something else now, especially my
Yes.
older one. But
Yes.
it's like, yeah, I want to know what's going on in their life because it's getting busier. Having that intention, right, of spending just that time with them. It's like, stop missing your life because it's right now. And I had a friend actually when I was traveling quite a number of years ago in Australia and New Zealand. We met this one fellow like, why are you rushing? Like, stop rushing. Can you not stop to smell the roses? And that has stuck with me every time I realize now that things are getting out of control. I'm like, stop and smell the roses. Stop and smell the roses.
Yeah. We're still living that like single kind of a life, and it's ingrained in us, right? From a very young age, but it's not our DNA. We can change it with
Yeah.
the choices that we make. And it can start right now. For a while, I was like, oh, I felt like I was maybe harping on what was, but you know what? It's a new day, and we can always start over. It's always in us, which I feel like I need to remind myself a lot, because looking for this fulfillment and, ease and calm feeling, looking for it externally, but it's in us all the time. We just have to tap into it.
Yeah. And Mickey, you just mentioned something interesting, right? Is the thinking about what was. It's like we don't live in the past either, right? And the more that you dwell or you think about and replay events or conversations in our heads that have gone maybe not the way that you want, or things have happened, it's like the more you dwell on it, the more it's going to stay in your sort of consciousness. And then you're in a loop where it's like you're constantly
Yes.
thinking about it and thinking and dwelling and then thinking and dwelling and thinking of all the consequences. And it's like, no, again, it's not easy, but you can do it with slowing down, being intentional with your thoughts, and being present is how you stop living in the past and the future.
And another piece with dwelling on the past and getting in that loop is that you're fueling it. It's like a snowball. it's
Mhm.
putting more energy into it, right? And the more and more energy we give to something, the more power it has in our life. And it's like, no, that doesn't deserve any more of my energy. I need to put my energy on the now and on where I'm going and what I'm doing right now. That's where it's going to matter. And that's where it's going to make a difference.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's, people have asked me who've started to meditate and doing my meditation courses, like, but how do you not plan? How do you not look forward to things that you want to do in the future? And it's like, no, you can still plan. You
Right.
can still, think about goals, but you need to be intentional and be fully present while doing that, if that makes any sense, right? Like when you sit down to write your goal for the rest of the year or what it is that you want to achieve, be fully present in what you're doing. Yeah.
I think you can see a clear picture on the steps that you might need to get there. And ultimately, it takes less time, right? So slowing down can almost help us be more productive in a weird way.
Yes,
So,
that is absolutely. And that's why when I talk about meditation, the benefits of meditation is that it brings such clarity and it brings such focus. By slowing down, you can actually be more productive. You can actually propel yourself forward by going slower. And so many people think that that's counterintuitive, but it is so true. Exactly what you just said. You can actually be more focused and then, okay, I need to do, and knowing how much time you have. This is what I need to do in this amount of time in order to do something else. I need to do this in order to be able to be present when my kids get home from school, because that's where the joy is. I'm going to do these
exactly.
5 things right now. And you're bang on.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, those 5 things get done. Right. And if you have, you had all the time in the world and maybe you weren't thinking that way, it might take you 2 days to get those 5 things done.
Yes.
So, oh my gosh,
So
you are a fascinating person and really
mm,
such an inspiration because you're doing so much good. You're sharing so many helpful things with everyone listening today.
thank
And
you.
I was just taking some notes as you were talking, and some of my favorite things that you said were, we're the only ones responsible for our own happiness, and we have to be where our feet are. So simple, but so profound.
Yeah.
Just being aware, and it's okay to shift. It's okay to change. We all change. So don't fight that. Embrace that so we can be in full alignment, and not using the word balance so much, which I do use a lot. I love thinking of it as harmony,
Yeah.
especially from a musical perspective. When you think of harmony, it's something beautiful and it's something that is very organic and authentic. And I love that, to strive for that, make that a goal in your life, and a life that we're not meant to do alone, right? Ask for the help, have the communication, have the awareness to ask for the help, create the community that you need. And oftentimes asking for the help could help somebody else as well. So
Yeah. You never know, right? We don't know. As we
I
mentioned
don't
before,
know.
you don't know what other people, and we're all human, but we're all similar in so many ways that you'll
Absolutely.
find that people are probably dealing with the same thing that you are. And you
Yep.
won't know until you
You won't
ask.
know. Yeah, just talk about it. It's okay. I think a nice way to end today might be to think about propelling ourselves forward by slowing down.
Mhm. So good.
It's so good. It's so good. And you know what? It's not that hard if you just start thinking about this stuff. It can be done right away. It can be baby steps. Doesn't have to be this huge thing, but
Yeah,
it
yeah,
makes such a
small
difference.
shifts, right? And that's the small shifts in our life are sometimes will result in the biggest rewards.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I would encourage everybody to check out Lianne's podcast, The Spiritual Shift Worker. And is there any other places that people can find you?
Yeah, I have on Facebook at the Spiritual Shift Worker. And then I am on Instagram. I do spend a fair amount of time over there. And that is actually just my handle is my name, Lianne McAughey.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for talking to us today, Lianne. It was really a pleasure.
Thank you so much. It's such a great conversation. And I love, slowing down is such a great message that you're putting out into the world, Anne Marie.
Oh, thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and have been inspired to slow down and start living life at your own pace. As a brand new podcast, your listener voice matters. If Let's Slow Down is resonating with you, please take a minute to leave a review and rate us. Subscribe to the show wherever you listen and share it with friends. Remember, this is a process, so go easy on yourself. Be gentle and take all the space you need to thrive, because the world needs you to be at your best, to love and serve others and yourself.